And just to sort of underscore this point, there isn't really a standard approach, right, to China-Latin America deal making. We hear a lot about China going to the region and seeking out resources or looking for a strategic opportunity, and that's happening certainly. But that tends to be sort of the dominant narrative. But even when China does this, their approaches are shaped by local conditions and regulations. It's also the case, and I think increasingly so, that some deals are struck at the behest of Latin American actors, right? Including not only, sort of federal government actors, right, but also mayors and governors in many cases who actively reach out to Chinese entities, companies in certain cases, trade associations and others, in order to strike these deals rather than the other way around.
So you have a public health system that's ill-equipped to manage it, very high levels of corruption and poor access. And who steps up but the Chinese? A sense of the motivations, it's hard to pin down exactly. You could attribute it to humanitarian concerns. You could attribute it to a decision to address potential negative consequences for Chinese image from its association with the early spread of the vaccine. You could say that it's South-South camaraderie, or you could say that it's a desire to find markets for Chinese equipment and medicines. You could say that they're selling some of these things and not donating them. So as usual with China, the motivations are obscure, and you could try to determine why. What is indisputable is the role that China did play in the region's response. So
if we see overall the concentration of big projects that are have inherent big environmental and social impacts, many of them are actually with Chinese participation, Chinese companies, Chinese financing, and are located in very sensible areas socially and environmentally. I don't think that changing anytime soon. Even if we don't see many more projects coming, we have to remember that those oil projects, those mining projects are 25 years contracts that can be renovated. So we really, really need Chinese actors to become more environmental responsible.
Effectively, you do have a situation that's much more one of, I would characterize as China's kind of been learning about the region and at times mispriced risk. They figured, right, we talked about the commodity guarantees before, they figured they could mitigate risk with things like commodity and land guarantees, right? A similar model that they use domestically. And in fact, right, in a lot of countries still ended up very exposed to sovereign risk. So now importantly, what we're seeing, to answer the second part of that question, is increasingly a desire of China to diversify that risk, to use more market tools. The financing is still state-backed, still coming from policy banks, but you have sort of 40 billion some odd dollars that has been sort of headlined, earmarked for the notion of kind of investing through private equity in the region. That being said, when I was doing my field research and talking with a lot of folks that were running these investment groups, this investment facility, effectively, right, they had highlighted in January 2020 that only about $2.5 billion of that has actually been allocated, right? And